to ask my next question, something I need to know is, are you guys still individually, do you have separate full-time jobs from the Handlebend organization?
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Both of us do. We're still involved with our own businesses and our family businesses
Yep.
on the side of Handlebend.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like entrepreneurship going on there. And the reason I wanted to know that is because sometimes I wonder for my own self, we, came back home and started our business, and everything tells you to go ahead and start that side thing, like kick that off, try to make it work. But don't quit what you're doing.
Right.
Like keep that alive, because you never know what's going to happen. I did the opposite.
Yeah.
I was so pissed at my full-time job, but I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was working for somebody. I was under their thumb all the time.
Yep.
Like I didn't have much flexibility at all. And I just freaking quit and went and started it. And sometimes I wonder, would it have been smarter? Would we be better positioned today if I had did it differently? I don't know if you guys have ever given that any kind of thought. Like, do you ever look back and say, hey, this or that, should I have done it this way? But it's a little bit different for you guys also, I think, because the other stuff that you do is also entrepreneurial ventures,
Right. If we were in your scenario, Ben, I think it would have been kind of the same thing. We
Yeah.
would have, kind of dove into it harder, faster at the start. But I'll tell you, it's been pretty beneficial, I think, to Handlebend and the way we've set this thing up to run it, especially in the early years when we didn't have a big payroll, that we kind of just were able to make decisions like we didn't need the money. And so
right. Yep.
that is pretty valuable
Mhm.
when you're starting a company.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, you talk about like the ripple effect. Like there's no way without that, say 3 or 4 year head start of that mentality, like where this thing, might have been without that mindset.
Well, that's Ben. You hate money, and
I do,
you go
right?
back to it all the time. Like if we could just do things based on making the best decision, what would
Right.
get us further ahead, not based on surviving,
Yeah, right.
paying rent, all those things that comes into play.
You
That
can get in a jam in a real hurry.
Yeah.
And so I've thought about our side of that coin that you just asked, going back to your question. But I suppose like on your side, there's definite advantages to, the way you did it. Like you just throw everything else, like chop everything off and you're going ham over here. Like it's kind of like backing somebody in a corner. Like if you're ready to rock.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
well, you're ready to rock. And if we would have done that, I think we would have tried to scale faster sooner.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
boots on the ground, more of a sales effort.
Yep.
Would have done things a little bit differently, for sure.
Yeah. So I think it kind of points out that there's not necessarily any one specific way to do it. Like it's not like this is definitely the way or this is definitely the way, but you totally could make it work either way. But bottom line is you got to have that mentality.
Right.
You got to be ready to do some stuff.
You got it ready to go. And I it's kind of funny. I thought about this at the beginning of the podcast with the grain elevator thing, and it makes a lot of sense. Like I've watched Matt and his dad run these old 60s grain elevators, and it's like all hell breaks loose like on a Thursday afternoon, right? And it's like throw a patch on it, get it going. We'll fix it when we got time.
Yeah.
And like running this business is like, that's what it is. It's like every day, like something comes up every week, something comes up, and it's like, you're just always like assessing, like, does this need fixed like all the way, or can we like patch it somehow and keep going over here where we really, and it's just like,
this is November. There's
ends.
semis coming in. The elevator's got to take the grain. That's
And I'm
it.
the one that's being like, hey, there's this problem. And can you add this to your list? There's this problem. And he's looking at me like, are you
It's like
kidding
get
me?
in the back of the line.
How about you problem solve and not give me all your problems? That's kind of our conversations.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They're not getting any closer to making out right now, I can tell.
I deal
Couple
with this
more
shit all the
meals.
time.
Couple more meals.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I think that's a great story. I think that paints a good picture. One of the things I was going to ask you guys while we're on that topic, is there anything that, if anybody's listening to this, that one piece of advice that you would give them, or that you would say like, I wish I had known this, or I wish I had thought about this when I was looking at starting a business, and it just doesn't necessarily have to do with Handlebend, but just with, everything that you guys have done over your life so far, with your parents and experiencing all these kinds of things. Is there anything that you can think of off the top of your head that would be beneficial for somebody like that?
I just told some people, we had a little tour of it was like a Grow County group, and they came through for a quick tour at the end of the day, and I was just talking to them, and I'm like, I think a piece of entrepreneurship is like if you launch your first idea and it like makes it, right? Like you're a 1 in a million, like you're so lucky, right? So that means that most of the time you're going to just be faced with so many like hurdles and so much adversity. And I think, okay, for something to make it like in the entrepreneurship or small business world, like number one, you have to have a good idea, but like there's no guarantee. Like everybody else obviously thinks their idea is good. So at the beginning,
Everyone thinks they have a good
so there's
idea.
that. But then like you obviously think your idea is good. You might be the only one. You probably are the only one that thinks it's a good idea at the inception of your business, right? Or of your venture, because otherwise somebody else would have done it.
Yeah, good point.
And so you have to like, and this is easy for me to say in the position we're in now, 7 years in, and like we've been running a fairly successful company. But you have to be able to figure out a way to live above like the noise, right? So I think that's pretty important. It's also very hard to sort out like in the moment, and when you are holding stuff together, like trying to make it all stay together at the seams. But I think that's a important priority to put like front of mind when you're working through that real time.
So it's kind of like just keeping the faith on what you originally, maybe not necessarily what you originally set out to do, but the idea of what you originally set out to do, to be an entrepreneur, to make things work. And all the noise that you're talking about is just like all the random problems that come up, and the people that say you can't, and the things that show their face where you're like, gosh, dang it, man. Like because I've felt this, like I could just go take a job. I could have that same paycheck every 2 weeks. I could have that number coming in that I know is coming in every 2 weeks. I could get away from all of this, but just staying true to that, what you originally wanted to do. Is that kind of what you're saying? Absolutely.
Yeah. Just like kind of just like developing thick skin, I guess, and like problem solving. Like at the end of the day, if you're launching, building, or growing a company, all you're doing is problem solving, like every single day, all day long.
Yep. Do you have anything to add to that, Matt?
No, just the faster you can wrap your mind around that, and being persistent in that, the better you're going to be as far as your mindset, because that is what it is. And the noise Michael's talking about, we battle with it quite a bit. We talk about it almost weekly. Like we could get 50 W's in a week, but man, those L's are so loud during the week. I mean, they're just glaring, and they glare through our team too.
Right.
So you got to stay above that noise. It's absolutely key.
And what is an example of an L? Just like maybe a product coming back, someone did something wrong, or like big. I mean, it's big and small you're talking about?
No, big and small.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you got when you're running a business like we have up front, which is a coffee shop and a tap room, you're directly serving the people you're seeing in the grocery store. Like it's a little bit harder
people
than
you grew up with.
Right.
So you could run into somebody at the grocery store and be like, "Oh, your employee didn't give me a smile today."
Oh yeah, or screwed up my drink,
Yes.
or my burrito, or even
Yeah.
something as simple as
Yes.
that. you
Sheila
know.
said it was a double shot. I know it wasn't
Yeah.
a double shot.
Okay. Yes.
But those
I'm just trying to
things are,
give like
just
an
like Matt
example
said,
for
like,
people to.
right.
Yeah.
But like if those things are, at a ratio of 1 to 99, like the 1 is the one you sit there and think
Yeah,
about.
it
Right?
is.
You can like lose a lot of confidence or whatever over those kind of things.
What do you guys think about? Morgan and I were actually talking about this on the way up here, because we had almost a 4-hour drive, and we're talking about our business and the things that we're running into. What do you think about the idea that like you don't really know who a company is or the company that you're dealing with, you know, and you talk about this, like your people in town, you know, who experience you guys, you know, at the retail level out there, you don't really know who these people are and if they're really good until you have a problem with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you'll learn a lot about something. I mean, I've said this for a long time. You can, even on the farmer side and the grain merchandising, like you can nail it out of the park 100 times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But the second you make a mistake or they think you made a mistake, they might be gone for a year, 5 years before they're knocking at the door again. You know,
And part of what I mean by that is like you make that mistake and you have that issue, and then how you handle that.
100%.
Then
Yeah.
what because those individuals then get to see you in a completely different light, because it's always like you just expect everything to work. You know, as a customer, you're like, yeah, it just works it works every time I go there. It's great. I love them, you know, whatever. But then when something really goes wrong, how those folks handle it, that's when you secure kind of those customers for life.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
And I think that goes to say, like, if you screw up or even if something's out of your control, like, it literally doesn't matter what it costs. You just like get after it and fix it. Like go over the top, you know, because
And
it's
admit it,
it's
right?
high
Like,
stakes,
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
It's high stakes. And even if you do that, just depending on the personnel you're dealing with, like you still might not recover, but like you have to get after it right now.
Right.
Yeah. So I got a degree similar to you guys in business management and doubled down and got a marketing degree with it. And there's a couple of really cool stories in my like 300 and 400 level classes where I think it was a